Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. My name's William, and this is a set of Corsa Competición, and today I'm going to be driving the McLaren 720S GT3 around Barcelona Catalunya. With the talk of F1 going to Catalunya this weekend, it's just kind of got me in the mood to drive this track. It's kind of funny, I'm not really a huge fan of Catalunya, but if that happens to you guys, let me know. I'd be interested, but anytime there's a race, a big race going on at a track, I kind of get the urge to drive it in sim. So here we are, we're at Catalunya, and as always, I'm going to have a hot lap in the video, as well as talking to you guys over the setup, kind of giving some setup adjustments and tweaks you can potentially make to it to make it a little bit more suitable for your driving style. If you don't quite like the way I had the car set up, there should be some good information for you in that part of the video. As always, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support. Wasn't long ago now, it hit 3,000 subscribers. It's huge for me, and I really do appreciate all the support from all of you. I don't want to stop there, though, obviously, so if you do like the video, give it a like, and subscribe as well if you haven't, and you want to see more videos like this, for sure. Go ahead and do that. All that generic YouTube stuff out of the way, I really do just want to say it does mean a lot to me, and I thank all of you so much for all the support. I'll go ahead and shut up now. We'll get on into the hot lap, and then I will be back with you guys to talk over the setup. Enjoy. Alright, that was a hot lap around Catalunya in the McLaren 720S GT3. You can see the time here is a 1:43.575. We'll go ahead and pull up the timetable in case you want to see the sector times. Been working on this setup for a couple days actually now, fighting a couple wheel gremlins as well. But ultimately managed to have a good run of it today, try out a couple different settings, and like I said, got into the 43.5, which is, I think, the fastest I've gone around here in any of the cars. Really happy with the time, and still not even a perfect lap. I think someone a little bit more talented, a little bit more capable, could definitely get quite a bit more time out of the car. But we'll go ahead and get on into the setup. I did start with the aggressive preset initially, and ultimately this is what I wound up with. So the only thing I really want to talk about on this page is the tire pressures that you should be aiming for, because you're probably going to need to change these starting PSIs depending on your conditions, how long of a run you're going to do, whatnot. Aiming for about 27, just under 28 PSI, in between 27.5 and 28 PSI on the front of the car for hot tire pressure, and on the rear of the car, trying to keep it above 27, but kind of in the range around 27.5 PSI on the rear of the car. Pretty typical for the GT3 cars, but just thought I'd point that out. Also, the camber on the rear of the car is definitely a bit of a compromise, running it a little bit lower primarily for the last sector on the track. Unfortunately, the last sector is what it is. I'm not a fan of it, but a lot of slow speed corners there, and if you've got the car set up a little bit too aggressively on camber angles or something, it feels really good through the first sector and even the second sector, but once you get to the third sector, it didn't feel that great to me. So trying to find a compromise there, and that's why they're quite a bit lower. On the electronic side of things, I was running my traction control on 1 and my ABS on 3. I had more consistency in the braking zones and just a little bit more drivability, using a little bit more ABS to kind of help me out. So definitely play with that. If you normally run a pretty low ABS setting, don't be afraid to try a little bit more. It did help me quite a bit around the track. My brake pad compound for the front and rear is on 2. This is kind of set up for a bit of a longer run. I definitely think if you were going just for an all-out quali lap or maybe a short sprint race or something, you should try out 1 on this car for the brake pad compounds. It does actually feel pretty nice on this car. Not a fan of it on some other ones. It just feels kind of awkward as far as modulating your brake pressure. But in this car, I do like it, but ultimately I try and set these up for any kind of condition. Or at least try to, and brake pad 2 is what you're going to want to use for sure if you're doing a longer race of any kind, and it is still plenty good for shorter stuff, shorter races, qualifying, that kind of stuff too. It's not a huge difference. On the suspension side of things, I wound up making the car quite a bit softer than I normally do for other tracks. I got a lot of time out of the car by making it a bit softer, and ultimately that's kind of the whole goal here. It didn't really feel like it was struggling to kind of keep its platform nice and stable, and actually that's one of the things I found that really helped me through Sector 1 was just having specifically the front of the car quite a bit softer. One thing I do want to talk about is the anti-roll bar on the front. If this car is a little bit too unstable for you in kind of like the middle of the corner, increasing this front anti-roll bar definitely makes the car quite a bit safer to drive. A little less rotation in the middle of the corner. It's just a little bit more stable and solid on the front end. It kind of comes at the cost of a little bit of rotation in the middle of the corner, which is ultimately what I think is kind of getting the speed out of it. But 4 is about as aggressive as I would want to go as far as like rotation wise, with increasing it to 5 being pretty safe and 6 being a really solid. I wouldn't go any higher than 6 on the front anti-roll bar, and you don't need to change anything else. You can just increase that front anti-roll bar to get a little bit more security out of the car. But like I said, I was running it on 4. It might be a little bit aggressive for you, but there is a little change you can make to make the car a little bit more secure, like I said. Also, if it is a little bit unstable for you for some reason on initial turn-in, just adding a little bit more preload to the rear differential, so increasing it to like 110 or 120 will kind of secure the car up for you, but it may cost you a little bit in the last sector in kind of the slow speed acceleration zone. So just kind of it's a bit of a balancing act with it on there. As far as the dampers are concerned, nothing much to talk about here, other than if you're wanting a little bit more rotation out of the car without increasing the preload or anything like that. Specifically on throttle, you can go for an increase of this rear bump. I do have it pretty soft to just try and actually get as much traction out of the rear as I can, especially in the slower speed corners like the hairpin in the last sector around the track. But you can increase that a little bit and get a little bit more rotation out of the rear of the car whenever you pick up the throttle. On the aero side of things, I didn't really tweak too much. I do have more wing on the car, and then I balanced the brake ducts. I believe I increased the brake duct a little bit for the rear of the car. Kind of through softening the car up and increasing the brake duct is just to balance the tire temperatures from the front and the rear. The fronts on this car like to run a little bit colder than the rear tires of the car, and it kind of makes it, it's one of the things I noticed whenever I was first setting this car up around Spa, I believe. Keeping those temperatures kind of similar front to rear really improved the balance and the drivability of the car for me. So if you want to kind of test that for your conditions, you just look at these temperatures here on the tires page after some laps of running, and you can see a little bit of difference. That's fine, but whenever it starts being like 10-degree difference, and only compare like inside to inside and middle to middle and outside to outside, I wouldn't really bother with worrying about any other temperature than the direct comparison. And balancing it left to right isn't such a big deal either, as certain tracks are just going to wear one side of the car or put more load into one side of the car than others. But yeah, ultimately it was about 10 degrees difference from the rear of the car to the front. So through softening it up and increasing that brake duct on the rear of the car, just trying to keep the rears a little bit under control and softening the car up really did help ultimately as well. The other thing I want to say is, if you do want a little bit more rotation out of the car, even more rotation, you can go for an increase of the rear ride height for sure, 1 or 2 millimeters. It got a little bit sketchier for me whenever I was running around 80 millimeters, but if you can hang on to it, I think there's some speed there. And if you want to really make the car much safer, if you're just trying to get some laps under your belt, go out around the track and not have to worry about it too much, just decreasing this rear ride height by 1 click or 2 clicks is going to make a pretty big difference. You'll get a little bit more understeer, but car should be a nice solid platform for you to go on and do that. So anyways, this is the setup. I've kind of been in a kick of Silverstone because of F1, and now that F1's going to Catalunya, I'm not a huge fan of this track, but it's fun to drive where you're seeing guys just absolutely throw cars around on track in real life. For some reason, I see that, and then I want to go drive it in a sim or something. And while this isn't an F1 car, I prefer these GT cars anyways. So I hope you all enjoy the setup. If you do give it a try, let me know how you get on with it. As always, if you like the video, give it a like. It does help me out a ton. And subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. But yeah, anyways, thank you all so much. And until next time, bye-bye.